All right, it's district breakdown time. We are in our last 5A Division One district, our last 5A district. It's 7 5A Division One. The district Lufkin wanted no part of. They took a look at that gas mileage and they're like, "No, put us somewhere else. I can't do it." So they're out. Now we're down to 7 teams, but it's still an interesting spread out district. It's one of those hodgepodge, right, where they kind of take the rest of the teams and say, "Here, have at it, boys." But there's some powerhouses in here. So what do you think about this district, and who do you think is going to come out on top?
I like that you appealed to get out of this district. You're like, I don't want to deal with Lufkin. You're still trying to get Tyler out of here, but we couldn't find any
Couldn't get
takers
them.
for them. But what we do have in here is a really good 6A team that is dropping, and it is the talk of a lot of the social media, a lot of the barbershop chit chat is about what is Highland Park going to do when they drop the 7 5A and they're back to 5A Division One. A lot of people are just saying Highland Park, Highland Park, Highland Park. Ward, I'm not as sold in a state capacity about Highland Park because Highland Park is Highland Park and they're always going to be good. And Coach Randy Allen, he's never going to retire. He loves this and they do things. But I look at what Highland Park is coming back and they don't got that quarterback coming back. They don't have that running back coming back. They have a really good defense coming back. Jack Morse, the really talented linebacker, is going to be back there. Anders Korn is a really talented linebacker. But who's going to step in at quarterback? Who's going to step in at those receiver positions? I got a lot of questions about Highland Park that I don't have about my number two team, and that is Red Oak.
Yeah, Red Oak. One question you don't have is who's the most dominant player in this district, and that may go to Taz Williams from Red Oak because he is a special receiver. Yes, as what usually happens to Red Oak happened again this year. One of their better players gets picked from their roster and taken up to one of the big South Dallas boys, but they still have Taz. They still have the other speedy receiver Robinson. Talk to me about Red Oak and why you're so high on them.
I mean, you just said it right there. Braden Robinson, Taz Williams, when you're returning 2,000 yards of receiving talent, 22 touchdowns, we don't know who that quarterback's going to be, but he's going to have two really talented receivers who can go get the ball if you overthrow it. I know you don't like those quarterbacks who overthrow the ball. It makes your camera go all weird when you're trying to figure it out, but these are two receivers who can do it. They got their running back coming back too, Ward and Lorenzo Holman. They did lose Kamyron Morgan that we talked about, but they still got a really couple talented defensive players and TJ Stalker, Jairus Bush, and Desmond Cox coming back. Red Oak is, and they proved last year that they can start winning some playoff games. You know, they beat Denton Ryan 2 years ago. Last year, they're continuing that success. I think that, you know, they might even feel disrespected that we're just kind of putting Highland Park in as that number one team. I think Red Oak has got the case to be the number one team, but I'm a big fan of those Scotties. But I mean, you got Taz Williams coming back.
What I hear about from you, Diggs, is that teams that are predominantly running teams that are both in this district with Burleson Centennial with that and Midlothian both have their most very wonky offenses that they get the ball, misdirection running plays. How are they going to do well in this district?
The problem is when you look at what Midlothian's coming back and you go look at Burleson Centennial's coming back and you start like, okay, who's the quarterback? Who's the running backs? They're all gone. I mean, both Midlothian and Burleson Centennial graduated heavy in those key positions. Probably for Burleson Centennial, the player that I've got coming back as a kid to watch is Damian Long, and he's a wide receiver. Well, you don't see much balls in Burleson Centennial at a wide receiver. They're going to have to figure out, just like Midlothian did last year, how they're going to get the ball to their stud wide receiver. How are you going to get the ball to Damian Long out there? And Midlothian struggled with that. I think Burleson Centennial is going to struggle with that. They got two really good linebackers coming back in Messiah Abayo and Blaine Smith. But who's going to run the ball? Who's going to be the quarterback for Burleson Centennial? I don't got the answer for that. Midlothian, I got the same problem. They graduated all their running backs and their quarterbacks and their stud wide receiver. So who's going to be going back for Midlothian? I don't have a player that I'm just looking at like, oh, this is my player, my pick to click for Midlothian. They got David Borderside coming back at wide receiver. Bo Wendell, quarterbacks, the not quarterback, but the son of the head coach is a really stud defensive player. He's a kid to watch. Noah Best is a really good offensive lineman to keep an eye on. But the team I'm high on, Ward, and I can see the eyes rolling in the back of your head right now. Those Tyler High Lions Lions, I've got as a playoff team in this district. They got Caden Granberry Ward, quarterback who threw for 1,700 yards last year as a sophomore. They got Davion Searles coming back at wide receiver who had 3 touchdowns last year. Ashton Ariga, 550 yards running the ball. Tyler High, I think, is above Midlothian and Burleson Centennial in this district, and I don't even think it's close. Midlothian is a team that I am high on because of the fact that they have done this year after year. They replace a lot of players, and they seem to get back in there. They've got that infrastructure set up. Burleson Centennial, I'm not as sold on. I know a lot of people are high on Burleson Centennial. I don't see it. Show me the huddle, Ward. Show me the huddle. I don't see it.
Show me the huddle. But isn't there something to say with systems like that, where the kind of plug and play system? Obviously they're running it through their JV and their 8th grade team. This is what we're going to do, 8th and 9th grade team. This is how we're going to run it. Your time is going to come, and we're going to run misdirection, and we're going to get stopped on 1st and 2nd down. But that 3rd down, you might break free. Is there anything to say about that? Maybe you don't need to have a star athlete. They're just kind of born in that system.
Think Highland Park's going to get intimidated by that? No. Red Oak has seen it for the last couple of years. You got Burleson Centennial coming in here, but then we had the fact that you had 3 and 4 last year playing each other in the playoffs, so they're very used to each other as it is. So I think there is something to be said for that. But now, it's kind of a niche thing, and now that it's a little bit more common, you got 2 teams in this district that are going to be doing the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. You're going to have to get used to it. So the defensive coordinators are going to be keying in on it. I think it's going to lose a little bit of its surprise ability, especially in this district that is so strong. But I do think there is a pretty big gap from those top 5 to the rest of the bottom 2 in this district.
To the bottom 2, yeah. What do you think about Joshua and what's going on at the Rock at Cleveland?
And Joshua has got to be feeling bad because Joshua opted up to avoid, to get out of the district that they've been in. And now they're looking at this and they're like, we didn't sign up for this. Get us back down. Put us in that 4th ISD district that we talked about, put us somewhere else, but don't put us here. We don't want to go to Lufkin. Joshua to Lufkin. Fortunately, they don't have to go to Lufkin, but they do got to go to Tyler, which is not much better. But Joshua, they got their quarterback coming back in Justin Tullis. Eli Martinez, he's a really good running back. He's a name to keep an eye on. I don't know if he's going to be a bobblehead guy, but maybe he's going to be somebody who's going to get on our radar. He had 763 yards with 5 touchdowns last year. Cleburne, we talked about a couple of years ago that they were playing a couple of freshmen. Well, those freshmen are now sophomores and juniors. Hayden Lifesti, the running back, is a really talented player to watch. Malachi Cunningham. But what Cleburne and Joshua don't have that the other 5 do have, offensive lines, big, bulky men in the middle who can dominate it. Cleburne and Joshua don't have it. Burleson, Centennial, Midlothian, Red Oak, Tyler High, and definitely Highland Park. They've got that size.
I was going to say, and that's what Highland, you talked about who's going to be all these skill position players, where they can hang their hat on big interior linemen, which will open the holes for whoever's back there. All right, throw me 1 through 7.
Well, before I throw you 1 to 7, I do want to kind of just point out, because I know you love district regional things. Our friends in Lake Belton are in 8-5A, so we're going to have 1st round playoff games, Lake Belton and Leander, against these teams out there. So you're going to have to be sending your camera crews all over God's creation down there. And you can't get rid of Lake Belton as much as you want to try.
Can't get rid of them too quickly.
But I've got number 1 Highland Park. I've got number 2 Red Oak. I've got number 3 Tyler High, 4 Midlothian. Burleson Centennial, I've got them falling all the way to number 5. I've got Cleburne at 6 and Hard Luck Joshua at number 7.
Sounds like you got Spartans as a distant 5 too. So we'll see how that turns out. Diggsy, do like this. We're done with 5A. We wrapped them all up for all the people. We're going to move on up, just like the Jeffersons. Just like the Jeffersons. We're going to hit some. We're going to hit some 3-6A next week, where North Crowley's actually put together one heck of a non-district schedule to challenge them, so that when they hit Duncanville in the future, they don't get stomped out. They at least have some experience in that. You know what it is. All right, Diggs, I appreciate you joining us. What's going on here? Oh, yeah, the Haka. A little Trinity action. All right, brother. You keep dancing your way out of 5A. I appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next week, Diggs.